Vision. Purposes. What things are. Where things are. What arrives in our eye is different from what actually is, but what we interpret them is all the same. Retina equals set of layers in the back of the eye, that allows you to see, then that information is transported into the cortex, to know what and where the things are that you're seeing. Perception. Objectivist view, our senses reflect the physical world. Subjectivist view, our mind organizes what we see, instead of what's out there itself. Vision is an interpretation of the world around us, it's an active calculation out what's out there, and we see through inferences. Visual illusions are a demonstration of the gap between what's actually out there in the world and how we interpret it. Brightness constancy, all we see depends on how much light gets into our eyes. Edges are used to make judgments about the relative brightness around an object. We're constantly interpreting color, shape, brightness, by the things that are surrounding it, and everything is a product of an interpretation. We perceive only within limits of our nervous system, but the way that our nervous system computes and makes inferences, reflects many properties of the world that are efficient and accurate. How we see. The eye takes objects of the world and it flips them upside down. It goes to the back of your eye. The information bounces back into the deepest part of your eye. Comes out and leads through the optic nerve. And it's also organized by the left and right visual field. Retina, layers in your eye that begins vision. Light comes in. Bounces to the back. Rods and cones where vision begins. Cones are near the fovea, and rods are peripheral. Optic nerve. Optic chiasm. The fibers get sorted out by whether the information comes from the left or right side of the world. Cortex. Rods are receptive to information at only one wavelength, they're effectively color blind, and they mainly pick up information in low light. Cones are selective for blue or red or green, seeing colors, they only work if you have a lot of illumination. Optic nerve. Lateral geniculate nucleus, a nucleus is a collection of cells, and it's a part of the thalamus. Cortex equals conscious visual perception. There are 6 layers of cells in each lateral geniculate nucleus. The first 2 are comprised of larger cells. And the other 4 are comprised of smaller cells. Magnocellular equals large cells, like rods, colorblind. Parvocellular equals small cells, like cones, can see color. Around half of the neocortex is devoted to vision. 11% to touch. 3% to audition. There are around 32 distinct areas on the visual cortex, each performing a different task. Each lateral geniculate nuclei have about 1 million neurons, they send information to be interpreted by about 250 million neurons in your visual cortex. Those will communicate to about 400 million neurons, and then to 1.3 billion visual cortical neurons in the brain. So, a single lateral geniculate neuron will take 600 cortical neurons to interpret the world. Parts of the brain that move your body. The number of neurons devoted to different parts of your body are radically different than your actual body size. The brain is very efficient to devote the number of neural resources to make that part of your body to accomplish anything with the lowest amount of energy possible. For hearing, things are organized by frequency, tonotopy. For vision, things are organized by spatial relations, and they expand the central part of the vision, like the fovea. The motor cortex overrepresents the hand. The visual cortex overrepresents the cone foveal part of the brain. Hubel and Wiesel show that neurons codes local orientation of little lines, and those lines will be assembled in the brain to represent a letter, word, face, etc. Which means each neuron knows they're seeing a line of this angle or that angle, and then will be assembled by a conscious person. Where pathway equals parietal lobe, pick up information from the fovea, 40%, but the majority are sensitive to stimuli in the periphery, 60%. What pathway equals temporal lobe or lower cortex, pick up information from the fovea, 100%. If you have a lesion, one form of vision is spared, and one is impaired. E.g. Balint's syndrome. People who are good at knowing what something is, the what pathway is intact, but they have problems knowing where things are. And vice versa. People who are good knowing where things are, where pathway, but they're bad knowing what things are.